Kimchi, bulgogi, French fries. Bulgogi is very easy. We're doing like a 막 bulgogi, which just means just like, you know, whatever happens, happens bulgogi. We only need like 1/4 of an onion. Actually, we'll use 1/2 of an onion. We're making for 2 people, so. I'm just gonna slice it really thin. And so when we cook it with the meat, it's gonna be like caramelized onions pretty much. So it's gonna be really thin, like this. Keep them on the side now. We're gonna cut some garlic. We're gonna make the marinade first and then we'll put in the good stuff, you know? So I'm doing like what you do with like onion mince. So this way at least you get like even pieces. Garlic is power. All right, let's get a little nub here. All right, I'm gonna mince this as well. All right, we'll put a little bit of ginger in there. Bulgogi doesn't really have ginger. It's an optional thing. You know, you can just go with the garlic thing. So, to this, actually I have to cut some green onions too. I don't really want the color in the bulgogi. So I'm gonna actually use the greens because they will turn just dark after a while. And then we'll garnish with the whites. Okay, so I'm gonna put some green onions in here. Let's make the marinade. So we got garlic. We got about 5 cloves of garlic in here. 5 cloves of garlic, a little nub of ginger, and then I just chopped up some green onions in there. You can adjust to your liking. We're gonna go with 4 tablespoons. 3 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go a little more, just because I want it to be a little bit more glazy. If you lack the sugar content, it's gonna be a little bit watery. Oh wait, actually, I need to put more sugar in. I'm doubling the recipe. So that was what, 4, 5, we'll go 6. And then we're gonna add about the same amount. So we're gonna, this is very simple. So we had what? Water, soy sauce, sugar. I'm not gonna add honey. It changes the flavor a little bit, so I don't want it. We're gonna do about 2 tablespoons toasted sesame oil. And I believe this is what differentiates bulgogi from teriyaki, pretty much. It's much fattier in flavor. It's less intense in the salt, and it's less sweet. It's a little bit more watered down, and it has sesame oil. So we got that shenanigans happening. And then what we're gonna do actually, we're gonna crush up some sesame seeds and then add it in there. That's gonna thicken up the sauce a little bit. All right, so we're gonna put in about 2 tablespoons worth of sesame seeds, and I'm gonna crush it up. And we're gonna add it to here. And there's a flavor in Korean called 고소하다. It's almost like umami, but it's not as intense. 고소하다 could be just like a hint of flavor, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like, holy shit, this dry aged beef has umami. It's not the same. Holy smokes, that's good, but we need more soy sauce. I accidentally added too much water, so taste it. It shouldn't be like super pungent. It should be just like a really good sauce. When you cook it down, the moisture goes away. The sugar, you know, caramelizes a little bit. It's gonna be delicious. So this is what it looks like. I'll show you guys on this other camera. Sesame seeds, garlic, ginger, green onion, soy sauce, sesame oil, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna marinate the meat in there. It's gonna be fantastic. We're gonna turn it over. We're gonna slice that beef. So this is entrecote. This is almost 1 kilo, so I think I'm gonna use like 1/3 of it. So the reason I'm putting this beef in the freezer is so that it hardens up a little bit. And that way we can get really thin slices. When it's soft, you can't really get thin slices. It won't work that way. So I'm gonna go over there. So we froze this for about, I don't even have a timer anymore, so I don't really know. So I'm gonna slice it really thin. It could almost fall apart. Like, if you're making a traditional bulgogi, you kind of want like long strips. But look, this broke apart like this, right? But imagine how neat it is when you're eating it with fries. And I froze it so that it would be easier to slice. But if you guys want it thicker, you can keep it like this. This, once you cook it, it'll fall apart. I'm using ribeye, so it's a little bit more marbled, so it's a bit more fragile. All right, we got shredded meat. Look at that. Oh, this is gonna be so good. It's gonna be all loaded on top of fries, y'all. Marinade. We got onions in there. Boom. And then we're gonna put all the beef in here. And this on its own, good enough to eat with just rice. So I'm just gonna mix it up. Oh, this looks so good. This smells so good too. Okay, so I'm mixing it and I'll show you guys how good this thing looks. Holy my golly. And this is probably gonna not gonna be that glazy, honestly. I don't have enough sugar in it. I want the texture of like that glaze, but I also don't want to add too much sugar because it defeats the, you know, it gets rid of the yummy flavor of the beef. It gets too sweet. Dude, I could eat this as it is, I think, to be honest. So I would say you can cook this right away. There's no must do in this dish, but I would say leave it alone for like 30 minutes at the minimum. So I'm just gonna put it aside. I'm gonna cut some mushrooms. I don't wanna marinate the mushrooms. This is enoki mushrooms. This is like the kind of extra chewy, squeaky kind. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. I'm gonna just chop them a little bit smaller. If you put this in the marinade too much, they absorb way too much of the salt, and then they become very salty. So you don't wanna do that early on. You're gonna put it right before you fry, so that while it cooks, it develops kind of like a skin and absorbs a little bit of the flavor, not marinated in it. I'm gonna set this aside, so I'm gonna fry. I'll add that when I'm frying it. Get to the bulgogi. It's been marinating for about an hour, I guess now, right? It's been like 45 minutes at least. Okay, this is bulgogi. So it's turned a lot darker now. Definitely absorbed some of the juices, the marinade. We're just gonna fry this up. This is like one of the few times where you can actually cook sesame oil. Usually sesame oil is just for topping. But when you make bulgogi, you actually just use sesame oil. The sesame oil flavor gets a little bit bitter when you heat it up too much. There's also a lot of liquid here, so it's not gonna burn. So eventually, we're gonna get rid of all this liquid, and hopefully, we're gonna evaporate them so that it becomes like a nice, thick consistency. So I made it so that when we're eating it with the fries, look how easy it is to grab little bits, right? Normally bulgogi, you have like big slices, even bigger than this. But now I have like a bunch of little pieces that I can eat with the fries. Mushrooms in. Hopefully the mushrooms absorb some of the liquid as well. So it's thickening up almost like a glaze. And this, imagine when it becomes cooler, it will definitely be thicker. All that, sugar content and everything is gonna get a little sticky. Like even now, like if you do this, the liquid slowly comes back to the spot, right? So ideally you would add less water than I did so that you don't overcook the beef. Yeah, that's all glazed up now. You see that? There's no more broth. It's just gonna go on top of the fries. It's gonna be great. So we got very heavily fermented kimchi. And whenever you cook with kimchi, you want it to be over fermented, very sour. When you cook it, it actually kind of tames that sourness and turns it into a different flavor. I'm sure there's a science behind it, but the true Korean way, guys. Don't put this on your cutting board. Just use scissors. Make it into small bits. All right, kimchi. So I'm just gonna strain out the broth. We don't want that in this because we want our kimchi to fry and not steam or like boil. A little bit of that. Oil, good oil. And then we'll put this in. And since we have so much flavors and the other stuff, we don't need to add seasoning to this. And watch out, when you're frying kimchi, be careful because those little pepper things, they tend to pop up. Use high heat, and you'll know when this becomes done because you see that like pale color? It all turns into like almost like a translucent dark brownish, dark orangish color. I'm just gonna put Put a pinch of sugar in it. I had some pork belly fat that I saved. The best kimchi is when you cook it in pork belly fat. I'm gonna add some pork belly fat in there. Bring it up to heat, and it's gonna turn darker and darker, darker, darker. Ignore the burnt bits at the side. None of this kimchi is actually burnt. Pork fat, stuff in there, and this should be good enough. Ta-da. Well, let's get to cooking. Let's see. Should we go thick, thin, medium, or thick? So I think these are okay thickness, right? Some of these are thin. We'll get them extra crispy. No problem, no problem. So we're just gonna soak these for about 30 minutes. And what this does is that it gets rid of all the extra starch that we don't really need. Try to make them similar size from each other because otherwise, they're not gonna cook at the same rate. You can already tell the water is becoming a little milkier. It's the extra starch. You're just gonna get rid of it. If you do warm, the water is gonna get absorbed into the potato. If you do cold, it's just gonna get rid of that extra starch, so. Potatoes, potatoes. So we do have potatoes that have slightly lost the starch content with the cold water. Holy smokes. All right, so we're gonna dry this. We're gonna blanch fry these, which means we just do like a little quick fry in the oil. Just kind of get the crust going for like 2 minutes. And then we're gonna take it out, put some potato starch on it. Supposed to put it in the freezer, but I think I might just put it in the balcony because we have below zero. And then that's gonna dry out a little bit more, and then the potato starch, the water content that it lost, it's gonna absorb a little bit more starch. So whatever is left remaining as a water content on these fries, it's gonna absorb the potato starch, and it's gonna become one. And when we fry it, it's gonna be extra crispy. Let's get the oil heating up. Heating up oil now. We're gonna do a quick oil blanching, as the fancy people would say it. Okay, let's toss these around a little bit. So this is oil blanching. I thought it was supposed to be really fast because it's like blanching, but I'm gonna check the temp in here. Okay, I'm gonna lower the heat just a little bit because you wanna blanch these and not actually brown them the first time around. We're just hoping that it cooks through. Okay, I just have to fish these out and I have to let them cool anyway. Okay, these are definitely cooked. I'm gonna pat them dry. All right, so these are almost dried. I'm gonna start dusting potato starch on these bad boys. So this is like the same idea for like when I do fried chicken, I don't use actually real flour sometimes. I just do like karage, right? Like Japanese style. I don't use actual flour. I just use potato starch or cornstarch. It's the same thing. It dries out the edges. It also builds you like a little crust that when fried is gonna be crispy as And then we're gonna wait for them to dry. It's gonna absorb the potato starch. It's gonna dry even further. All right, we're gonna fry the fries now. Surprise, surprise. Everybody welcome Booba! All right, fries are going in. So what I'm doing is kind of like overloading it. I'm not supposed to. You're supposed to do it in batches so that the oil temperature doesn't drop too fast. But I'm too impatient, so I don't really care. Soon it'll be crispy. I can already feel it. It's building an armor. An armor of crispy.
It actually looks really good.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. So they have this like white like potato starch hue around them, but it's fine. But you can hear it. Here. I think the oil temp wasn't hot enough, to be honest. It's really good, yeah. The flavor's there. It's very potato-y. But I've taken out this first layer of oil. I'm gonna put it here, and then I'm gonna salt it real quick. Salt your fries while it's warm. All right, we're ready. Kimchi, bulgogi, French fries. Loaded fries, I guess. All right, guys. We did it. I don't even know how to start to eat this.
This is so good. This is good. This has a, what are these guys?
That's the
I missed that.
janchi. I chopped it up.
It's so good.
What if it like falls into it?
Baby, no way.
Oh no!